Okay, so I am getting set up to do a bit different Instagram Live for those that are always tune in. This is the last week of my class with the master copy of Cezanne, and I am let's see, so I'm looking for, trying to get in to, how am I going to do this? Let's see, oh, I don't have Nomi in. Okay, well, I will adapt. So this term, there we go. Let's see. Okay, so let's see, is that upside down? That's working out. Okay. Hey there. So this is all new for me. I'm trying to set up a way. There we go. Let's see. Okay, so I think that will work. So what I am trying to do is I am going to be doing some, I'm going to be copying, we have been doing, okay, so I'm trying to figure out things. So for for this term so far, we have been looking at Cezanne's work, and with Cezanne, he used watercolor quite a bit he used drawing and watercolor to discover to inform his creative decisions. And so I am doing the same thing with, we're in this class. This is the last class lesson that we're going to have this week of this term on this subject. And so now today we're looking at his watercolor methodology. So, and with that, I am going to be doing a watercolor demonstration, and we've already been doing some demonstrations already, but I want to be able to do more for this demonstration. So we're going to be exploring this way, and so I'm actually going to be using my iPhone as my helper for this. Let's make sure I've got my watercolor sets. I've got like a scratch sheet of paper that I have been using as to explore different things. I'll also go over some of my supplies that I have. So like as an artist, I guess first of all, let's talk about these two great books. So Paul Cezanne, Drawings in Watercolor, is a phenomenal book. It is full, and if you want to know Cezanne as an artist, I would say get this book, because this book delves into his explorations, like how he would go to the Louvre early on in his art career and make copies of sculpture, because that's Michelangelo's The Dying Slave that's in the Louvre. He would do drawings from sculpture, but he also would do let's see, so like this is a Medea after Delacroix. This book also talks about how he painted alongside with Camille Pissarro. So this is an example of a Camille Pissarro painting. This is Cezanne's painting from the same view. Here is another Camille Pissarro and a Cezanne. And so, it talks about his association with the Impressionists, and then let's see, what's this next chapter? This, I can't. And so then it shows some of his early sketches and watercolors and drawings and landscapes. This, because Cezanne did a ton of landscapes, a lot of this book is dedicated to his landscapes, and it's wonderful because it really does a great job of cataloging the watercolors that he created, his drawings that he created. They also have some really wonderful chapter on him portraying the individual or doing portraits, and it has paintings, and then like this is a Rembrandt sketch, and a Paul Rubens, but then like there's Cezanne's drawing of his wife. Some of his sketches, just some of his sketchbook entries, just really, really amazing. Like, okay, and look at this. I gotta share you with this. So this is hydrangeas with a drawing of his wife. This is how beautiful is that? And so Cezanne really used watercolor and drawing to support his creative expression, and that is what this class is dedicated to. We've been talking a lot about watercolor, and I demonstrated some, but I'm going to demonstrate some more as we go on. So then here's another example of a Delacroix unmade bed, and then a Cezanne's unmade bed. Just really this is just a wonderful book. And then this book is dedicated to specifically analyzing this painting. It's a still life with blue picture. Let's see if I can find, here we go. And so this is an excellent book also that delves into how Cezanne created his watercolors. And look at that layering. There's a lot of really close detail images in this book that you can see the work, the landscape as still life. Just really, really good book. So, and why would an artist want to have this information? And why would we, as artists, we create oil paintings, but also we create an oil painting might be a completed idea, but as a artist, it's really important for you to also explore and figure out how to just look more in depth and become more versatile in the way we explore things. So these are two demonstrations that I did earlier today in class from some Cezanne watercolors that he did. And one of the reasons why watercolor is such a phenomenal resource as artists is because it's so very fast. And so today I'm going to demonstrate a watercolor, and I've got this piece of watercolor paper, and I want to fold it down and make it smaller. So the nice thing about watercolor is it folds and tears really well. Watercolor also has a smoother side and a rougher side. So then, as an artist, I get to choose, do I want the more rough patinaed side, or do I want the smoother side? And then, so I'm going to be doing this guy. And this guy's, when I zoom in on the photograph, this is found in the catalog Raisonné. I noticed that it's pretty smooth. So that means my choice needs to be smooth as well. So that's what I'm going to, that is what I'm going to do. In fact, I'm going to see if I can't get it bigger. So, okay. So, and I'm just going to do it here. I always watercolor or I always, when I watercolor, I always tape down at least the corners, if not more. And this is a piece of coroplast that I like to use for my watercolors, and that allows for, that way if I wanted to, I could paint totally off the edges, and it won't stain my wood tabletop. So it's a way of protecting my tabletop. Okay, and then I have my paper towels, and I have brushes. So this is a Kolinsky, a red sable Kolinsky brush by Escoda. It's a size 10. It's really large. I have this wonderful also size 8 as well. So this is a pointed round, and then this is just a round because it doesn't go to a tight point. It's it does point a little bit, but nothing like the pointed round. So I like them both. So, but when and then I have a lead holder and a lead pointer that I like to sharpen my pencil with. And let's see, you can see so I have these wonderful crayon d'Arche watercolor pencils that I really enjoy playing with when I do watercolor. So, and this is a big set. This is of 84, but I would suggest, if you're curious and trying it out, start with like the set of 10, I think 12. They have a set of 12, which is got all the basic colors, but and then this is my watercolor pan set that I really like using. I've had this for well over 18 years, and they're full pans that I just squeeze out with paint tubes, and and then as they empty out, I refill them up with paint. And so like I just refilled my cobalt blue and my ultramarine violet, and some of the others like my ultramarine blue will need to be reloaded very quickly, but I won't do that right now. And I like having my brushes with water. I paint very wet, so I'm gonna put that to the side. And then this is my watercolor board that I'm gonna be painting on. So, okay, so I've got everything I need. So now I'm gonna start drawing. So I've got this wonderful Cezanne drawing of like a row of pears. So I'm gonna get started. So it's like I have, let's see. So this is what I'm using from the catalog Raisonné, and so it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it's like probably 1 width, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. So like for example, if I'm gonna have my width of the first pair like right here, I know that I need, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's about it. So I might need to actually make it just a bit smaller. I love, like watercolor is so fast. You work with your shapes and like just using a quick pencil sketch to create your outline, your contours. You can really create some, and I've got this plate. Another pair. really like right there. Okay, right there, so that means that's a little bit smaller. I don't have an eraser here. Oh, there it is. So I'm not going to erase the lines after I do the watercolor, but if my drawing got really out like it did in a couple of spots, or that I need to have a couple of spots that are a little bit more like there, so, and then like this apple is lower, and then it's got a, right there is the stem, and then the plate. Might have to adjust that plate some. So Cezanne worked with really simple shapes, and what I like about his watercolors is that when, even in his oil paintings, he was always interested in the adjacent relationships of the objects that he was painting. So in his watercolor, you can totally see where he is investigating an idea for a painting, how, like, the first thing he's doing is he's investigating the adjacencies, and you know, and that is something that I'm just fascinated with. As an artist, I'm very fascinated with how different artists approach their subject matter, and like how, you know, what is it that they did. So I'm actually going to go smaller today, I think, with this, because this painting is such a small painting in relationship. So I'm going to use I have a number 6 Isabe. This is Squirrel Tail. It's a 6221 painting, but let's, okay, there we go. So that's what I'm going to use, and so I'm going to investigate how things come together. So I'm going to first, like, I see yellows. I'm going to actually, yeah, so that's not any smaller. So okay, so there's yellow ochre, so I'm going to get that down, because Cezanne was interested in the adjacencies. So and like, what were the colors, the values of like adjacent areas. So I'm going to do the same thing with my drawing, or with my copy of his watercolor, because I want to, you know, I too want to explore what it was that he was looking at, and what made him interested. So, and like Cezanne liked to use, like, he'll use color notes that they'll just kind of be dappled all over his setup. So if I want to add more, yeah, I think I'm going to go down. And then he used, let's see, this is a red, it's a little bit more brilliant than what Cezanne used. So I'm gonna I mixed it, that it was like a cadmium red, and I mixed in some, and I probably need to thin it down, make it not so pigmentally dense. That wetness in my brush, so I'm gonna do that. So he will do a wash sometimes, and like Cezanne was, you know, the way he painted oils is also how he painted his watercolors, and it's, you know, he wasn't too married to the idea of these thin, delicate, untouched glazes. Like if you're at all familiar with watercolor, a lot of the more modern art teachers will talk about how you paint in glazes. The reference photo is not available. Oh, not visible. There we go. Is that better? It makes it difficult for me to, you'll probably see my forehead a bit, but yeah, okay. Let's see if there's, I can do this to prop it up just a little bit for me. Okay, there we go. And you know, I haven't been looking at any other comments, guys. I'm sorry. Since this is all new, since I'm doing this from a tabletop, it's new, but I'm having so much fun. So, okay, great. Seems to be okay. So, Cezanne used, he would add in layers of paint. So I'm going to do the same thing. He would build up with then washes, and then he builds up. And this watercolor in particular is very much that. So. Too much. Oops. There we go. And then let's get, don't want too much. And watercolor, as it dries, gets lighter, so that allows for, unfortunately I made that too pigmentally dense right off the bat, but that's okay. You know what, everything is forgivable. So I need to check and see. So that's a celadon green. He's got these wonderful like purple colors. So I've got this wonderful ultramarine violet. I'm gonna get that in. Again, you know, Cezanne is very interested in those boundaries. So you'll find that in his watercolors, he emphasizes the boundaries. In his oil paints, he emphasizes the boundaries. And I find that very fascinating. I am so glad that we have been studying him this term, because it's just given me such a better understanding of how he looked at the world as a creative. And you know, with that information, I'm able to, you know, it has expanded my own vocabulary and how I look and think about oops. The one side effect of painting very wet is that a lot of wet water drops sometimes get spread out. So there's a purple. Oops, too wet still. Too wet. Okay, so everything's a bit too wet. So one thing about watercolors too is that you have to wait for the paper to dry sometimes. So I am going to go to a new area, and that's what you do when you're working with watercolor. If an area is just way too wet, you find another area to work in. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm mixing some Viridian with my, I can't remember if this is my cadmium lemon or if this is just a brilliant yellow. And I want it to be thin, because I want how do you control the brightness of your pigments by how much water you have in your mixture. So I want the the color to go on thinly and light in value. So that means I need to make sure that the pigment density of my watercolor is a little bit on the thin side, so that way it stays and like I just laid down too much, so now I've added more water to my brush, and now so essentially I'm spreading the watercolor through with water. It's an amazingly beautiful pigment, in my opinion. I absolutely love painting with watercolor. It definitely has its its ups and downs, so to speak, in that it can be kind of finicky, and if you're okay, it can also have some issues with, like, if you're a person who wants really control and accuracy, it's not as forgiving as oil paints are. But like, I love painting with watercolor in a way when it's going a bit wild and it's a bit wet and I don't know exactly what it's going to do, and that's okay with me. I kind of like that. I like that ability to just not know, and then to explore and see what will happen. Let's see, so it's getting there for dryness. And like and painting in pale washes, I don't always do that, I must admit. I like the big bold colors with watercolor, but that's okay. The whole reason why I like doing these master copies is that it's a way of inviting me to do something different than I would regularly do. So let's look. It's getting to where I need to be with this painting. I need to put a wash of yellow. So this is my cad yellow, and cad yellow is an opaque watercolor. It can sometimes cause, it's pretty strong. Cezanne used yellow ochre, but I don't have yellow ochre out on my watercolor palette. So because of that, I'm trying to copy a Cezanne while at the same time using the pigments I have available to me. And sometimes, in my opinion, that might be the best way to do a master copy, because that way you're learning how to copy and paint, think like the master that you are interested in and want to learn from. But you're also learning, in a way learning reverse engineering with your own paint supplies, which then leads to some really wonderful color opportunities, and they tend to be they'll be a bit it won't be the same as a master copy, but what it does is it does set up for your ability to then apply the knowledge that you've gained from this copy to your own work in a way that, if you were using the exact pigments that the artist used, but there are pigments that you never use on your own color palette when you're painting, then I think it's all for naught, because you can't take that skill then and maybe as easily apply it to your own work. So Okay, so I want to dry a little bit faster, unfortunately, because I want to do some of the last bits, touches to this. Let's see, that's not quite dry either. So let's see, what time is it? We've got like another few minutes. So while I am doing that, I'll do a quick, I won't tape it down, but I'll move it. I'll do a quick color sketch with the same thing, but instead I'm going to use my crayons and just have fun playing. And so, like, for example, these watercolor crayons weren't available to Cezanne when Cezanne was painting, but like, if you know, if this is a material that you like, then like, and I happen to really like drawing with these watercolor crayons, so I'm gonna play with those. So like, I've got this, I've got an apple here. Let's get that. Does that go down enough? It doesn't go down enough. Okay. And then we've got like a line or a green apple, because it has a stem. So it's a green apple, and then the plate, and then the pear is right here. And then we have another apple right here. We got a stem. We have another apple right here. And compositionally, this is an interesting thing, because we have like we have a set of, like, we can group the composition into 2 sets of 3 within, and then the one single one, which adds the sense of unity and variety to the composition. Let's see, I think it needs to go like that. Okay. We've got it there, and then there's something here, and then the plate comes up and around, and then the pear is like that, and then the plate. Okay. Okay, so I've got, while the top one is drying with the watercolors, I'm going to experiment with my crayon. So I'm going to first do, I've got these wonderful yellow ochres. So okay, I'm going to try this one. So I've got this yellow ochre that has I've got some yellow ochre here. And there's some yellow ochre here. And some yellow ochre here. And there's some yellow ochre in there. Which I'm going to actually make it go just a wee bit more yellow. Hello, orange. Okay, orange is yellow. Okay. And then, let's see, I would say that it's more of a vermilion color. So this is my vermilion crayon. So, and then, let's see. I might need to make it a little bit darker, but for now. And I'm going to do some purple. Let's see. I think I want, this is ultramarine blue. I wonder if I have ultramarine violet. That's violet. What is this one? That's indigo blue. okay, I'm gonna try a combination of these violets and ultramarine blue. So like there's that line right there, and then there's a line right here, and there's a line there, but it's actually even kind of violet, so I'm gonna work on it with a little bit of violet. This is okay, and then there's like this beautiful, that beautiful celadon. So what is that's lime green? That might be it. What's that color? It doesn't say. So I'm gonna try the lime green first and see what that does. I'm gonna try it. This is the, I think I'll try the violet over here and just see what that does. Okay, and then we have lime green here. And so let's see, I think that's about it. Okay, so okay, and this is called Ruby Red. And so there's quite a bit of like kind of rubyishness too. So I'm gonna just put a little bit of Ruby Red. And Ruby Red. Softly put that in, and there we go. Okay, so I've got these wonderful bits. So now let's see, where are we? Okay, so now I'm just using water to activate the paint. I need to actually not make it so wet, my brush. So this is the mixture of ultramarine blue and violet, and that's a better combination than just the pure violet, because that's pure violet and it's just a little bit too red. But when I combined the two, look at that, that made a really nice color. And then this is the yellow ochre that I am activating now. And then it's pretty wet, so I'm gonna let that stay while I go over to other areas. And what I tend to do is, like, if I know I want that area to get rid of some of the crayon texture that I have, I get it wet, and then I go back in a second time with a wet brush and further break it down. So one of my students this morning asked me, like, how do I deal with the crayons going a little bit like dull, because of you can sharpen them with like with an X-Acto blade is what I've done at times, but also I tend to, when I use them, I'll draw for a little bit on one side, and then I twist it a quarter turn and draw it again, draw with it again, and then I do it again. And what that does is that allows for each time you draw on it, each quarter turn, it has essentially gotten just a little bit more sharpened on that side, and so it like evens out it just a little bit. Let's get, oops, okay, so too wet, and I touched it, so I'm gonna dry that off. So, like, okay, so then, like, say, I've got this ruby red, or this, I don't know what the red I want, carmine. So, like, you can, I don't know if you can see here, but he went in with some darker hatching. But like this is where the crayon can be fun, is because it's still kind of wet, but then I can go in with my wet crayon and create these wonderful hatch marks. Wrong color though. I need, I think, I'm looking, is that scarlet? Yeah, maybe this color. Yep. So then I can go, you can go in and actually hatch. And so you can do some really fun effects. And if that's like too much, then I can go in again and soften. Kind of always twisting and turning as you go. Oops, too wet. That was too much. I will get rid of it some. But it's just a really fun way, especially like right here. And then there's some and then you can, if you want to, use your pan paints as well. I do a little bit of both. So yeah, so I'm gonna actually fiddle with this guy. So Cezanne went back in and, whoops, make that one a little bit. I'm gonna have to, and did a couple of like paint hatch marks. So I'm gonna do the same thing. Side was a little bit more pigmentally dense, but that's okay. Yeah, I absolutely love this. Let's see. Do the watercolor crayons dry lighter like regular watercolor paints? They do, yeah. So but I think in some, but like when you do they do dry lighter too. So all watercolors, be it the crayons or, but what's nice is, like, I don't know if you can see, that's watercolor crayon that I never bothered to really dissolve, except for like right along the margin. And so the crayon is darker, and then like I didn't ever like reduce and get in there and like get that pigment. So if how, you know, you can get like darker value area, and that's just because that's like pure pigment rubbed on your paper. You've got some there's some wonderful, but it does dry lighter just like watercolor. I mean, all watercolor wash, you know, does that. So and there's no harm with that. It's just, you know, you have to anticipate that and plan for that. And how do you plan and anticipate is that you do try to make sure that you're that you're kind of painting, well, like if you're going to paint all over, to paint in such a way that it allows for for, you know, you have to kind of anticipate that. So I like to just paint kind of in all the areas just a little bit. That helps, and it helps me feel like I am making plans appropriately. Okay, guys. Well, you know, that's about it for today's watercolor exploration. You know, for my students, I really want to encourage you guys to explore using different mediums, because I think it's absolutely amazing how you have so much variety to, you know, there's so many ways you can express yourself creatively. And and you know, some mediums are extremely forgiving. Like, I think personally that watercolor is forgiving if you're not going for something that's like extremely controlled and special. But if you're looking for something just to quickly make a sketch, to quickly investigate an idea, you know, there's nothing better than watercolor for that, because you can so quickly and easily get your set up, put a piece of paper down, tape it down, and voila, you've got you have a you know something, a study, something that you're exploring. So let's see if there's any other questions. Let's see. Nope, it looks like not that many. So guys, I think that is it for today. Unless y'all have a couple of questions, I've got we'll get over soon anyways. But I don't know if I don't really have much more to share with you today, but just that this is the last class of my master copy class till the fall. In the fall, we will meet again. We'll start meeting again, and we're going to be studying Luis Melendez's work. You are welcome, LLS. I think that's Linda, if I'm correct, but I can't quite remember. But I want to encourage you guys to seek ways of being creative this summer, and know that there's always multiple avenues that you can explore. Also, I am teaching a color essentials class this summer that's starting in mid July. And let me actually look. I'm bad with dates, so let's look. It will be the first day of class is July 13th. We meet for 6 weeks, and we are going to have a really fun time. Color Essentials class is going to be all about color mixing with oils. It is an oils focused class. We're going to be looking at color mixing, the pigments, the color wheel, color theory, complementary colors. There's going to be an entire lesson all on mixing greens, realistic greens for your paintings. And yeah, and then I also am teaching my floral painting class. And so I hope you guys have a really wonderful summer break, and thank you so much for being here today. Take care. Bye. Let's see. Oh, I gotta can't see what's going on. So let's thank you so much. Oops, there we go. Let's end.